Hey Potters! All right, this is your clay boot camp. You are gonna watch this video at home and then practice these techniques so you are ready for this term. All right, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about wedging. I'm gonna show you how to make a pinch pot, how to use coils to build a pot, and how to roll a slab at home and in the studio, how to slip and score, and then how we kind of, as potters and artists, like sketch our form in 3D with the clay, and then we refine that throughout the drying process. So let's get started. First of all, the piece of clay that I have given you to take home, it's straight out of the box, so there isn't any air bubbles in it. In order to remove air bubbles, we do something called wedging, and you can go and search for how to wedge your clay video on our YouTube channel to learn how to do that. But if you're just doing it right off the block, you should be good to go there. Now, we don't want air or bubbles, air bubbles in our clay, because what happens is like water gets trapped in that little bubble and doesn't dry as well as the rest of the piece. And if it goes into the kiln like that, that water in there will boil and explode. Now with that said, if you let the piece dry long enough, it won't explode. But that's a little bit about wedging. The first thing I'm gonna show you is pinch pots. So I will say the one thing that is not in your toolkit is a wire tool, but you could use a piece of dental floss, a string, fish line, anything like that, and you just cut your clay. I'm gonna go down to like demo mode here. All right, so I just took my wire tool and cut off just a little piece of clay, really less than half of that. And another thing that I need you guys to do, we don't have enough wear boards to send home. So you're gonna need to search around the house for like a little board, a little tray, something that is okay if it gets dirty and messy, that you're gonna be able to build your stuff on and then transport it to and from school to be fired. So I'm just using this styrofoam plate. Even just like an old plastic plate would be good, or something like from the Dollar Tree you could pick up pretty easily. So as you can see, I cut that, there's no air bubbles, and I'm just gonna roll this into a ball. Now, I'm not removing any clay and putting it back on because that would add air bubbles. I'm just rolling it into a ball. And then to make a pinch pot, you take your thumb and you push it in the middle. Now you don't want to go all the way through. I'm probably about that much from this side. So that's what it looks like. I have a hole there. And then, this is, I think, really meditative. You just turn it in your hand and gently pinch. And once you can get 2 fingers in there, you can do it with 2 fingers. And you can see right now, this is really thick, which would be nice if you were gonna do some really detailed carving or some relief carving. But I want to keep it going. There's professional artists that make the most beautiful pinch pots, and they're really thin and delicate and beautiful. Definitely do like a Google search to look up other artists that do pinch pots. I'm also making sure that I'm pinching this and this. Anytime in ceramics, you want your clay to be even. You want the walls to be even. So if I were to cut this in half right now, I would want the rim to be the same thickness as here and as the bottom. So you really gotta kind of feel your way around. Notice I'm not adding any water, but if you had to walk away and you forgot to cover this up and it started to get like cracking, you could just spritz it with a little water. You don't want to add a lot of water, but you could spritz it with a little water. Okay, so when you're making a pinch pot, what often happens is this rim stretches out. So I want you to be aware of that so you can kind of make sure that you're keeping that rim under control. What we're looking for here is like a half of a sphere, not, you know, a shallow bowl. Okay, so this is how you make a pinch pot, like so. I'm gonna come back to that in a second. For coil, again, I'm just gonna cut a little piece off of here. And again, I don't wanna add air into this. See, there's no air right now. So, I mean, you could use a knife. I'm gonna use this. And you're gonna roll out some coils, AKA when you're little snakes. Watch how I roll this. I start with my fingertips together, and as I push, I spread my fingertips out. And you can go either way. You can go this way, so your palms of your hands. Now, just like I said about the walls being even here, you want this coil to be even. So try not to get it thick in one part and thin in the other part. It takes some practice. Now, to start off with your coil, let's say you're gonna do a vessel. You can really make anything out of coil. I'm gonna just start rolling it up here. And I'm applying firm pressure, but I'm not squeezing it. So then it looks like that. Now, you could, sit around and watch your favorite Netflix TV show and roll out like 20 coils and then start building, or you can roll them as you go. Again, I want this coil to be about the same thickness as this one. And then I'm just gonna add it on. I'm gonna pitch that a little bit firmer there and keep going. Now, when I do demos for you guys, I do it like super simple. I show you the most basic form of the technique, and I do that so that I'm like filling up your toolbox. I'm just showing you the basic technique so that then you can use your imagination, your creativity, and your artistic ability to make something great. So now I want this piece to start rising up. Now, I will say that you could take your spoon. Let me grab my spoon out of my little studio on the go. And if you wanted this to be smooth, I'm just using the tip of my spoon, you could turn this and kind of smooth it out. Now, I'm not gonna really focus on this being like totally perfect right now, because remember this, like I mentioned before, it's just like the sketch. So when master painters do a painting, they don't start with the most detailed aspects of it. They start with just a very general sketch, and then they start refining it, and refining it. So right now we're just kind of in the sketch form of it. Now I want to start building that up. So when you're building it up, at least for this first piece, I'm just going to score this a little bit. Scoring is where you kind of dig up the surface of that clay, just so it attaches a little bit better. Then I'm gonna put that coil on there and start spinning it around. The nice thing about working on a plate is that it might turn a little bit easier for you. Again, I'm applying kind of pressure down and in, but not so much that I'm smashing it, because I want it to be built up. Again, Google, you guys are totally capable of Googling, artist pinch pots or ceramicists that make pinch pots, and see the wonderful work that can really come from these quite simple techniques, okay? So, I don't want that to stick too bad. So you can see now I'm forming this little pot. You could bring out the coils to come out and make a belly and go back in and make a neck. If you're doing something really big, right now we're only working small, but if you're doing something really big, you would use bigger coils. But you wanna make sure that whatever you build can support its own weight. So let's say I wanted to make a really big belly here with the coils. I might wanna let this firm up a little bit, become a little bit leather hard as I get that weight coming up. Okay, so you get the idea. You could make anything, really anything. You could do a face, an animal, just an abstract sculpture, something functional. Many ways you can use coil. Now slab. Again, take whatever you're using for your wire tool. And in your kit, you have these two. Some of you have square ones, some of you have round ones. It doesn't matter. But those are going to sit within the width or the length of your rolling pin. So I'm gonna put this little guy down here. It's easiest to not start with a ball, you know, like I already am starting kind of with the patty here. And you want this patty to be taller than these, okay? And what you're gonna do is you can start in the middle and slowly roll out, and then start in the middle and roll back. Roll out, back. You can also, if you want it to be wider or bigger, you can roll it from the other direction and it will eventually get bigger and bigger. I did not use a lot of clay here. I'm gonna do one more. Now again, this makes it so that it is the same thickness all the way through. Because again, in ceramics, everything has to be the same thickness. So I'm starting in the middle of my patty, pushing forward, going back to the middle, pushing back. Middle. And you want to do this until your rolling pin is touching the wood on both sides. And then it's nice and flat. Mind you, you can get as big as these and as big as this. This is still a little bit small. So, slipping and scoring. Slipping and scoring is super important. You can spend hours and hours on a work of art, a ceramic art, and not slip and score it correctly, and then when it dries, it will just fall apart. So you wanna make sure you slip and score it. I really didn't have any slip prepared, but slip is really just clay and water. I like my slip, so I'm trying to make slip right here for this demo. I like my slip to be like the consistency of peanut butter. Tomorrow morning, this slip will be like great. So you're gonna need to make your own slip. So you're gonna just put some few chunks of clay in your little slip container and add some water and then let it sit overnight, or you can try to stir it up like me. I don't recommend it. Okay, so again, I want this to be, I'm gonna use kind of this thicker stuff up here that's more like peanut butter. You do not wanna use water, just plain water. Okay, so for slipping and scoring, the first thing you're gonna do is score. So let's say I'm gonna cut this like so, and I'm just gonna cut this like so, okay? So I wanna slip and score these two pieces together, okay? So I'm gonna place that there. I'm gonna use the wooden needle tool here to kind of trace where I need to score. Scoring is again where you're kind of digging up the surface of that clay. You want to really dig in. You don't want to do just like chicken scratches, like just really light scratches. It won't work. You want to dig in there. Some people use forks to do this. I like to have a little bit more control, like so. And then you take your slip, and you don't want this to be really sloppy. If you have a brush, you could use a brush, or your fingers will work just fine too. Again, we're not adding like so much slip that it's gonna be like gunking out all over the place. It's not necessary. So then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna score it going a different direction. So I score, slip, and then score. And I do that on any two pieces that I'm connecting. Like so.